The best two racing drivers in the world, the two greatest race teams in the world, taking very different routes toward the one prize. Only one of them can win. Michael Schumacher today can become Ferrari's first world driving champion since 1979. Mika Hakkinen is trying to become the first driver since Fangio in the mid-1950s to win 3 consecutive world driving championships. Thus far this season, each has taken unbelievable risks at breathtaking speeds and made incredible passes. And today, each must call on all of their skills and all of their team's engineering here in Suzuka now. Sportsnet welcomes you to Suzuka and the Grand Prix of Japan, the penultimate round of the 2000 World Championship. And cars are on track for their reconnaissance laps. In 30 minutes, we could decide the 2000 World Champion. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Joy alongside Derek Bell, a former Ferrari F1 driver, and Peter Williams, a former manager at Williams and Ferrari. Get set for the best half hour in television, our Mercedes-Benz pre-race. The title showdown is uppermost in everyone's mind today. A qualifying duel that was settled by thousandths of a second. You'll see it. We'll look back at Indianapolis and get the Formula One community's impressions of the U.S. Grand Prix. And we'll go 1-on-2 with the two championship combatants, Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen. A light drizzle falling here at Suzuka as cars are on track for their recon laps. Such anticipation, Derek, and I don't know, just a little bit of not just anticipation, but foreboding?
Well, there is really. I mean, this race could decide it, as we're going to find out in a minute when we show them the graphics. But in fact, it's just so exciting as far as these two men. The whole race is about not this man so much, but this is Rubens Barrichello. But the Ferrari versus Mika Hakkinen. It's all about those two men today. Oh.
The points stand like this in quite a turn from entering Indy when Schumacher was 2 points back. Now he's 8 points up on Mika Hakkinen and can clinch today. Everyone else is out of the championship chase.
And then the constructors. We have Ferrari with 143 points to McLaren's 133. Williams only 34, Benetton 20, Jordan 17, BAR 17, and that's your top grouping.
If Schumacher wins the race, he wins the title. The rest of the scenarios come down to this simple fact. If Michael earns 2 more points than Mika does today, Michael is the champion. If not, we go on to Malaysia to decide it. Their records are pretty equal at Suzuka, but note that Michael has 4 poles here to Mika's none. That was, of course, before this weekend. It's now 5-zip, and 3 fast laps to Mika's none. Otherwise, they're pretty even here.
It is amazing, yeah.
So recon laps continues there for Arrows and Ferrari, and one of the McLarens coming out. And just a little bit of a raindrop here and there. You wouldn't call the track wet, but maybe the weather is a little foreboding, much like today is for these drivers and teams. What of their teammates, though? David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello, what are their roles in deciding this championship between Schumacher and Hakkinen? Here's David.
There's been so much talk about this, and I think everyone's overplaying what teams can actually do. I can't be miraculously put in front of Michael or anything like that. We've got to go racing and see what happens. And clearly, if I make a good start, then at the moment I'm not as quick as Michael and Mika. So presumably, then if I get in front of one of them, then I'm not going to be as quick. And who knows what can happen, but let's just see what happens at the start first of all.
Well, those are interesting thoughts from David Coulthard, but they have been warned very vehemently this weekend. A black and white flag may well be waved, and that means that you are behaving in an unsportsmanlike way. If that happens, they're going to take it very seriously. The first time's a warning, the second time could be a 3-race ban. Pretty major.
And the way the rule is written is very vague. It's very much subject to interpretation, and the teams just aren't sure how that rule might be applied. So, we'll see. A lot of talk out Indy about a shakeup at British American racing. Many in the F1 European community shrugged it off, but now, Peter, it may have come to pass.
BAR, British American Racing, Jacques Villeneuve's trouble-torn team in the news again. Here at Suzuka, the rumour is that a management buyout team has been formed, and that includes, in no particular order, Adrian Reynard, his designer, Malcolm Osler, and also Barry Green, who, of course, won the Indy 500 with Jacques Villeneuve and is currently a Champ Car team owner. Not in that team, unsurprisingly, Craig Pollock. So a split rumoured to be occurring right down the middle there. Craig Pollock is denying everything, of course, so is Adrian Reynard, but rumours are that this is certainly very, very likely. Jacques Villeneuve, meanwhile, taking a place in the middle, but we know where his loyalties lie. They are with Craig Pollock. Also in the news, Tom Moser, the man who was Craig Pollock's ally, the man that enabled the BAT money to be poured into this team 2 or 3 years ago. He's resigned from BAT, so big changes at BAR. Meanwhile, Bridgestone have one tyre here this weekend. That's very significant because this is the first time they've run a 98 spec tyre, a tyre that goes back to the days of competition with Goodyear. Everybody in the pit lane says it's a brilliant tyre. The quality is very different from that of anything we've seen over the last 18 months. And certainly at Magny-Cours last week, the first test took place where both Bridgestone and Michelin were present on the same day. So the tyre war certainly hotting up for next year.
Well, of course, that just brings another angle into this exciting racing for next season when you're going to have Michelin versus Bridgestone. It's going to be pretty tough out there.
Certainly is. There is Jenson Button, and we'll see more from him in a minute because he was one of the stars of qualifying. Just a stellar result for his Williams BMW. We'll have a look at qualifying when we come back. Welcome back to our Mercedes-Benz pre-race for the Grand Prix of Japan, penultimate round in this year's World Championship. Suzuka has been the home of the Japanese Grand Prix since 1987, and Derek, very unique circuit.
Yes, well, it was designed by John Hugenholtz, who designed Zandvoort in Holland. Very exciting track. The only track we actually race on with a figure of 8, as it were. There are 3 of the possible areas. One is into turn 1 for overtaking. I don't think it's ideal. The second is actually into the hairpin. It is possible there. And the other, of course, is into the chicane before the pits. It's 3.6 miles, the second longest circuit in the world. 18 turns. Let's go and ride with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's steaming down the hill past the pits up to 195 miles an hour. He'll actually brake lightly and then downshift 1 gear as he goes through the first part, brakes some more and down another gear, tries to get it back under control, works his way out of there at 90 miles an hour, then up through the S curves. These, believe me, go on and on. You've got to get on the apex each time, but you mustn't use all the road on the exit, otherwise you're going to find yourself not lining up for the next corner, and you have to get the rhythm right. Coulthard, for example, had a bit of trouble this weekend getting it right. Now we go to the Dunlop curve. This has a bump in it, which actually upsets the car. Then he's working his way along the top bit up the Dania curves at 135 miles an hour between the two. Down to 80 for this corner. Under the bridge, that's the other part of the circuit going overhead. Accelerates all his way up to 170 miles an hour. Hard braking as he goes into the hairpin. This is a first gear 40-mile-an-hour corner. Car always seems to understeer coming out of there, right out to the outside, but you've got to be right under control to get all that power down. Works his way through this 175-mile-an-hour long right-hander, and he's coming up to 180 miles an hour. He's going to brake into the first part of the spoon curve. The second part, you can see there, the adverse camber, the road actually drops away, and you've got to keep the car right in the middle of the, or to the left of the road as you come out there, otherwise you have to back off, and you need all the throttle you can get down the straight. Now he's coming up to 130R. He's doing 195 miles an hour as he gets up here. Works his way through that, a little bit of lift off as he goes through there. Accelerating, get up to 185, braking hard for the chicane. He's going to bounce over the curbs, as they all do, to get a little bit more grip when the car lands. And out he comes onto the pit straight. That was a lap with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. They have the track surface is smooth. The grip level is very high here. The drivers like it. Tire compound is soft. Tire wear is medium. Brake wear is low. Maximum throttle 62% of the lap. And fuel consumption is high.
Well, it's certainly a track that produces exciting racing, and it's one where Ferrari and McLaren have been very even all through the weekend. There's Ralf Schumacher, who will line up 6th right alongside his young teammate, Jenson Button. with Jensen pipping Ralph again in qualifying, not by much, but considering that Jensen hasn't raced here, perhaps that is significant. As we said, qualifying was a game of thousands, perhaps the best qualifying we've seen all season, Derek.
Yes, it really was the most exciting. I must admit, I was on the side of my seat watching it as it happening. The drama was building up, of course, for this showdown at Suzuka, as I like to call it. Michael Schumacher seemed very relaxed all weekend, had been quickest in most of the sessions. Mika Häkkinen a little bit more serious about it. Schumacher went out after 35 minutes, and he sets pole time. There it is, straight away a quick time. Mika responds. He goes out. He's trying to do it. Can he do it? Yes, he gets pole. So Michael goes out again. He says, right, I better take the wand back from you. He goes out. Look at it. 135.9. 0.1, a tenth of a second. Mika says, I can't believe it. That means I've got to go out again. I can't believe it. Look, here's the first sector. Häkkinen, in fact, is slower. Ferrari think, oh, we've got it. But it's his second sector. He's still a little bit slow. And you think, that's it. Michael hasn't got to go out again. But as he goes over the line, he's 700ths quicker. Wonderful bit of driving. Michael says, okay, boys, I'm the best. I'm just going to show you that I am. And believe it or not, that is exactly what he tries to do. There he is. He's 1,000th of 100th of a second quicker, and over the line he goes 9,000ths of a second quicker. Jubilation. Mika Häkkinen goes out one more time in the dying segment of the session, trying to get up to it. He's very close to Michael all the way around. Will he do it? He goes over the line. No, 2/10. He lost a bit of time as he went over the line. Look at the Ferrari boys. They were so happy. The fans were not as ecstatic as they were at the US Grand Prix, but my goodness me, let's go and listen to Michael Schumacher at the press conference.
Naturally, this is not the race as any other. So, as you know, we can finish this championship here. The game raises, but I guess I'm used to this. On the other side, there's no point to celebrate now big time this pole position, because it's nice, but it doesn't mean really the end result. And we have to fight for that very hard tomorrow, in my view. But we're ready to do this.
Well, basically, yes. You know, my last run was pretty good, and made adjustments to the car which helped me to go quicker. But just in the last chicane, obviously wasn't able to accelerate out of the corner as fast as I wanted to. So obviously I'm a bit disappointed to be in second position, yes.
Let's hear from Ross Brawn, the technical director at Ferrari, who's one of the men right behind this Ferrari resurgence.
You had only 3 runs instead of the 4. Was that planned in advance?
We hope to, yes. Yeah, I mean, we want to save tyres for the race, so we were hoping we could manage it in 3 runs. And so the whole thing was scheduled around 3 runs.
Well, on the pole, and they've conserved tyres. There's confidence. Back to you.
Well, of course, it really matters just what happens when that flag drops or the red lights go out. We'll see what happens at the start line.
And the cars are as even as they have been all season, just thousandths apart in qualifying and close all through practice. Still a few umbrellas up, but it has stopped raining around most of the circuit. So we expect a dry race. When we come back during our Mercedes-Benz pre-race, we'll have a look back at the US Grand Prix at Indianapolis. Was it as truly wonderful for the Europeans as us Americans felt? We'll see. Coming up in 2 weeks' time, the final round of the World Championship, the Grand Prix of Malaysia. Most of you in the East and Midwest will see it live. It may be delayed in some Western markets. Check your local listings, as Fox Sports Net is a network of regional affiliates who sometimes have local programming commitments, but most of you will see it live Saturday, October 21st. Michael Schumacher giving a on-the-grid interview.
Very rare, may I add. You can't normally get him on the grid.
To that's German television, of course, and you know, you can, if he's that loose before the race is ready to go, it's a good sign for Ferrari fans,
He's been very relaxed all weekend, astonishingly relaxed.
Well, we had a wonderful time at Indianapolis 2 weeks ago as Formula One returned to the United States for the first time in 9 years. A quick look back at some of the highlights. David Coulthard on the grid and rolling just a little bit prematurely in front of 220,000 fans. He would eventually get a 10-second penalty after the officials had reviewed the tape. So there they are off on the start, gray then red. Here's the Minardi holding off the McLaren for 4th place. That was too much for Mika's engine. Pneumatic valve trouble, and poof, up in smoke. Jacques Villeneuve had a little bit of a spin, not to win. Look at this, dive bomb pass. JV trying it on Frentzen, didn't quite work. And then Michael rather falls asleep while in the lead, and he does the spin and win leading Ferrari to a 1-2 and taking over the lead in the World Championship as he and Barrichello celebrate. Well, what did the European Formula One community think of Indy?
I thought it was great. I mean, I saw a lot of Brazilian flags and a lot of people, I don't know if they were drunk or anything like this, but they were saying, I mean, some of them were saying nice things, some of them were saying really bad things on that crowd, but they were all Brazilian, so the Americans don't have to worry.
The main thing of the start was walking out onto the grid to cover the cars sitting there, looking left and right and seeing 200,000 people. That was just, well, it took your breath away.
Circuit is cool, a few parts. I mean, it showed that overtaking is good there, which is similar to my hometown in Austria, or home race.
Well, we have race fans all over the world, and especially there have been a lot of Jordan fans in Indianapolis, and I was quite amazed how many Jordan fans actually there are, and I think most of them are a huge crowd of them are basically Irish, what I understood, but you have Jordan fans all over the world, so it was a great pleasure to see them there.
Probably the best US Grand Prix ever, and well, I was impressed with the spectators. They cheered, they stood up, they gave us a big applause when the first car was running on the racetrack. And it was a fantastic mood.
Especially into turn one. You didn't see it so much during the weekend from an engineer's point of view, but when we saw it from the podium, because we finished third there, it was unbelievable. And the drivers were saying into turn one, it was just like driving into a sea of people.
Definitely the starting grid and the sea of people. Never seen anything like it. I get a pass to go on the starting grid. Normally I leave before the race starts, but I just had to stay there to just see the reaction of the crowds. It was amazing, phenomenal.
The first time a car came through the pit lane, I've never heard so many people shouting, because they were very happy. So I hope they were happy. We won't know until next year, but if next year all the seats are taken 3 months before, I think Formula One's been a big success.
A huge venue, a huge success. I think Formula One performed the way it had to for the American fans. I know Formula One enjoyed it, they seem to, but what Formula One really needs is an American driver. I don't know how far away we are from that.
Well, I thought there was an incredible atmosphere, and I think the fact that 200,000 fans stood up to cheer their drivers round at the end really says it all, Mike.
This young fellow, Jenson Button, loved it. Not a great day for Eddie Irvine there back at Indy, but we just had a wonderful time. Both Bernie Eccleston and Tony George, both very happy, and both exclaimed that how great it is that Formula One has a permanent home in the United States. And I'll tell you, Derek, I hope we're there next year for Fox Sports Net, but if we're not, Gay and I are going to buy tickets. I wouldn't miss it.
I'm going to be there with you, Mike.
Right. Well, Indy was the first of 3 consecutive flyaway races for the Europe-based Formula One teams. It takes 7 747s to load all the cars, equipment, and digital TV gear. So we sent Peter Windsor deep inside Formula One to see what it takes to fly away.
Yes, an 82-page manifest here from the Williams team, and that means 82 of these Packhorse boxes have been on the road now effectively since just after the Italian Grand Prix, a month ago. After that race, the teams had to prepare the cars not only for America, but also for the 3-race cycle that they're now into. In this particular one here, box number 6, for example, oil and water, suspension, fuel hosing, suspension front, anti-roll bars, fuel equipment, steering, rose joints. It's all there. It's all packed in these boxes like this. Here, for example, you can see the sort of detail I have to go to. This yellow cable, fine. That's got an American plug on the end, used in Indianapolis, obviously. No good here in Japan or Malaysia, but they had to bring it with them. Inside here, look at these tailpipes, beautifully stacked BMW tailpipes. This is the sort of detail of the packing and the logistics that Formula One is very typical for. Inside, that's where we really see it come to a head. That's where all the detailed drawers are barcoded. And when a mechanic needs a bolt, when he needs something that actually is going to make the car run in 30 seconds, he knows exactly where to go. So there we've got, for example, everything you need to make up a set of pedals. We have brake ducts for qualifying, brake ducts for the race. We have all sorts of nuts and bolts, all made by Williams, of course, gloves, everything you could possibly want. And of course, the main thing here is to maximize space. So how do you get a workbench with a vise on it? What you do, you turn one of these Packhorses into a bench by bolting a carbon plate on the top. Hey presto, you've saved a lot of space and of course valuable weight there. For the crews, it is unbelievably tiring. They had to race prepare the cars for the American Grand Prix at Indianapolis, 4 days less time than they would normally have in order to get them on those freighters to Indianapolis. Same after the Japanese Grand Prix. The boys are going to be working till midnight Sunday night, most of Monday, going to Malaysia and then starting 5 days later building cars for the Malaysian Grand Prix.
Thank you, Peter. I wish my garage was that organized, but then I don't have $150 million a year to spend on it. There is Michael Schumacher. He's just donned his helmet, climbed aboard the car. When he takes that helmet off, will he be the world champion? We will find out. We're less than 8 minutes from the start as that car awaits the current and perhaps future world champion, Mika Häkkinen. We'll be right back and talk to them both in our next segment. The Grand Prix of Japan on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at mbusa.com. And by mysap.com. You can, it does. Well, there's the second quickest ride at Suzuka, the roller coaster at the adjacent fairgrounds and amusement park. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like your comments, your questions, and suggestions about our coverage. Formula1@foxsports.net is our email address. We read them all, but schedule questions should go to your local Fox Sports Net affiliate. There is Michael Schumacher. The only question on his mind right this minute is, can he beat Mika on the start? And Derek, Ferrari made a lot of changes to the clutches, we're told, after trouble with practice starts during this weekend. McLaren Mercedes reported no problems whatsoever in that regard.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they must be worried about Michael's starts because he's had some pretty poor starts this year, and that really cost him dearly at the US Grand Prix, really.
And Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who hoped to be a bit further up in this championship than he is and further up on the grid, he'll start 8th today. Michael Schumacher, Mika Häkkinen. One of them will be world champion. Peter Windsor talked to them both. First to Mika about racing Suzuka.
For me, it is the most ideal place to race, the situation where we are at the moment. Because I have been going very well past here in Suzuka, so I'm ready to fight over here and to get back on the top.
Tell us about the difference between the McLaren and the Ferrari, first in qualifying and then in race conditions.
I'm very confident at the moment with the car. More than confident probably what I was in Indianapolis in general. Even if we were in the race very fast, I think here we can be even quicker. And we have something different in the car what we had in last race, what we've been testing, and we know which is something better. So in terms of lap time, it's going to make us go a little bit quicker. Is that going to be enough? I don't know, but that's what we'll see.
They had some noticeable low points in the year, Monaco, Hockenheim, Austria. What was it like on the Monday after those races in terms of the championship and the year ahead of you?
It's never a good feeling. On the other side, I have a family, and when I'm back home, my kids don't care whether the father won a race or lost a race. It's always the same for me and for them. So it comes very quickly down to normal life.
How close do you think Ferrari and McLaren are now in race conditions?
As you see, pretty close, and we feel optimistic because we know that we have a very good car, and if we get the maximum out of this car, then we know we can do it. But then is the point, do we always get the maximum or not, and what about the other side?
What was that moment like on the podium at Indianapolis in front of that crowd?
Great. I mean, you have, in particular down there, you have the tribune on double surface, and it means that many spectators and people in front of you celebrate together with you, and being the first time there, seeing all that, the amount of people is no, we all look forward to go back there next year.
One final question, going back to Suzuka, a fine line between what your teammates can do, and you talked about that after the race in Indianapolis. Can you give us your thoughts again on how far a teammate can go to help you or Mika?
I mean, the point is pretty easy. If he's in the race in a normal condition, he can slow down somebody, as what we have seen in Indianapolis, what David did or what I did in Malaysia. That's part of the game, and you simply have to accept it. Even though when you're on the part of receiving, you're not very happy naturally, but then that's part of it, and you have to adapt to it. But on the other side, I'd rather see no teammates influencing any situation. I'd rather fight on a straight fight with Mika. From my position, that's natural. Obviously, Mika would like to see that differently.
Well, he certainly seems pretty relaxed, doesn't he?
I think so. He struck out at David Coulthard about the incident bumping during the passing in Indianapolis. But since, Michael has recanted. He said, I've looked at the video. There was nothing untoward. It looked different from the cockpit. He said, but he apologized to David for his outburst and said it was a fair move. Coming up, the start that could decide the season. Stay right here. Welcome back to Suzuka. The grid now beginning to clear. The signal been given to clear the starting grid as we get set for the formation lap. There's Michael Schumacher on your right. 76 degrees, 63% humidity, chance of rain now 60%, but within the course of the race that will drop to 30%. So Schumacher on the outside there. Hakkinen right alongside, and everybody else is no place. One of those two for the championship.
Well, remember, they are actually about 20 foot apart, I have to say, Mike. You said they're side by side.
Well, yeah,
I think we
virtually.
just pointed that out. I wanted to do it before because it just gives Schumacher, the front man, that little bit of extra clearance when he leaves the line. So he's not bottlenecked next to the other guy. Puff of smoke as the engines rev up a bit. Remember, they're allowed to do a start off the line as they go.
And with that, let's have a look at our Mercedes-Benz starting grid for today's race. 31st career pole for Michael Schumacher by just 9 1/1000ths.
Mika Hakkinen was pretty happy. Remember, he's won twice from this position on the grid.
David Coulthard, from his comments, I don't think his car is quite at the same spec of Mika's, but appears he got all out of it there was for third.
Yeah, Rubens Barrichello hasn't had that brilliant a weekend, but fourth isn't too bad.
How about Jenson Button in the Williams BMW, who called qualifying fifth one of the greatest moments of his season?
Well, and poor Ralf Schumacher, he's found it very hard to match Jenson Button this weekend.
Eddie Irvine for Jaguar. Big aerodynamic developments in the last week paid off, and he's pretty thrilled with seventh.
Frentzen hasn't been happy with his car, and they've been trying to sort it out, so I hope it's okay for the race.
Jacques Villeneuve will line up ninth. His hair is dyed red, and he joked it's to support Michael. Big developments there, but a lack of grip in the high-speed corners for Jacques.
Yeah, aerodynamic changes have improved it for Herbert.
Alexander Wirtz. He said the car felt a little down on power, but he's out-qualified Fizzy again.
Yeah, and it wasn't the first time this year either.
Back to row 7 in the Arrows. De La Rosa cited electric and hydraulic problems, but even 2 more tenths would not have moved him up a row.
Jos Verstappen's been complaining of understeer all the time.
Jarno Trulli way back in 15th. Power steering problems. They continued during the warm-up, and he's now gone to the spare car. Nick Heidfeld for Prost back there in 16th position. Not terribly thrilled. Then Jean Alesi, car has no balance. He's not confident with it, he says. And Zonta struggling a bit with his BAR. The Saubers are way back in the 10th row. Mika Salo had to go to the T car, which was set up for Denitz. Denitz blew up and stayed online during practice, so they penalized him by throwing out his 2 best qualifying laps, puts him 20th. Marc Gené, 1.6 seconds faster than he was last season, but still, the Minardis are slow. Mazzacani anchors the grid as per usual. Cars coming back to the grid, and these next few minutes, Derek, could decide the World Championship. How vital is it to get off this grid first?
Well, it's absolutely paramount that Schumacher makes the best start he's made all year. The McLaren, for some reason, does seem to get more traction off these starts. Ferrari seem to leave a bit of smoke. I'm sure Michael has been practicing, but that's what it's all about. They look like they're side by side now, but believe me, they are slightly offset. Very, very critical time for all of them, but it is still a long race as the others all get in line behind.
Again, they've changed the dynamics of the clutch in Schumacher's car after trouble with practice starts, and smoke still. And is that fluid dripping? Oh no, I'm sorry. No.
It looks like a fluid, doesn't it, back there?
Yeah,
it looks most unusual, but I don't like that smoke coming off his car at this stage.
Remember, he fell out of the last race at Indy. Let's go with the Japanese Grand Prix. Schumacher slices across, but cannot deny Hakkinen. Mika, Michael, David, and is that Button up for fourth?
Well, Schumacher tried to get across in front of Hakkinen, but his start again is just not up to it. Those McLarens, I have to say, do have something that helps them get better traction off the line. We saw it in Indy the other week, and it seemed the same here. Now we know so well that McLaren is always just a little bit better than the Ferrari. It's always just that better in race form, and that's what I think worries most Ferrari fans. Here they are as they come into the hairpin. First gear corner. Accelerate out.
Boy, Barrichello also did not get a good start, Derek. He's back about 6th.
And Michael did need a little bit of assistance up at the front. Here they are just coming around now, what they call the spoon. And that leads on to the back straight. As I said in the earlier bit when we saw the track map, you've got to be right in on the inside of the corner. Don't let the car drift out too wide. Keep it in. And then you slipstream down this back straight and through 130R. Very difficult because they take that at some 170 miles an hour, and you can't really get in somebody's slipstream into it. Braking into the chicane, over the curb.
Eddie Irvine moved up to 5th from 7th on the grid.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher had a stunning start. It's him in 4th place.
Yeah, it was Ralf, not Jensen, who's back in 7th. So Barrichello slipped from 4th to 6th.
Doesn't look at one. They downshift once, downshift again, and then start to work their way up through the S's.
Rounding out the top 10, Johnny Herbert, Jacques Villeneuve, Jos Verstappen. Let's have another look at the start.
Yeah. No way he was going to block Mika Hakkinen. Look at the way that
Ralf.
McLaren goes. Look at Ralf up there too. And
Gosh,
David
what a
Coulthard
move.
has to give him a bit of room.
Ralf almost got up for 3rd as he squeezed Rubens. Look for wheel spin here. Let's see. Boy, not much.
Michael knows where he's going, but he's already lost out. He's lost those feet already. He's had some appalling starts this year.
And Eddie came up the outside to 5th. Look for any wheel spin on Mika's car. You won't see any. You never do.
He tried to make it tight for Mika Hakkinen as he went off the line, but of course he was far too slow off the line. He could have done that if he'd had a better start. Here they come again up to the spoon. You can see them come, beautiful aerial shot as they work their way around 175 mile on the right side, coming out of the spoon, then down this long back straight, which of course has a grid of its own for one of the other circuits that they use here at this wonderful facility at Suzuka. Then up to 130R, this very, very famous corner, where they all treated a bit like Eau Rouge at Spa. 160 mile an hour corner. They just feather the throttle as they go through there. Remember, they're on fairly fuel tanks right now. We don't know what their strategy is going to be. Last year, everybody did 2 stops. This year, we understand that Trulli, way back on the grid, we know he's only going for 1, and we don't know who others might be doing that too.
Schumacher 1 second back. The 1 second is pretty inconsequential, but the fact that Hakkinen is the man in front of him means everything.
Yes, I'm afraid it's going to all go down to, unless other things come into being, it's going to come down to just how close they are when they go for their stops for tyres and fuel. And we've seen some wonderful work going on by both teams this year. Irvine doing a stunning job there in 5th place, one has to say, in the Jaguar. The Jaguar does work well when they have, if you like to call it, an abrasive surface, when they can get more grip out of it and they can use the downforce of the car.
Well, Eddie really benefited by everybody else diving to the inside on the start, as Barrichello tried unsuccessfully to hold off Ralf Schumacher, and then Coulthard had to battle with Ralf. Everybody was pinched down there. Eddie just took the high road and went around the outside, brought himself up to 5th on the start.
Yeah, why not? It's the way to go. Everybody went to the right, and it's such a wide corner. Eddie has raced here a lot. He raced here a lot, tremendous amount in sports cars and 3000, and of course, he had his first Grand Prix here when he ended up having a punch-up with Ayrton Senna.
We understand that at least one driver is under investigation for perhaps jumping the start. We'll try to find out more.
Boy, I hope it's
It
not.
is common to take some time in reviewing all the available videotape angles before a decision is made. So some folks may have been critical that it took so long to penalize Coulthard at Indianapolis, but that is pretty much the matter of course. So Mika Hakkinen trying to regain the lead in the World Championship and send the title fight on to Malaysia in the final round of the season. Leads Michael Schumacher. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Suzuka, where Mika Häkkinen leads Michael Schumacher. There are the two drivers fighting for the World Championship. If Schumacher wins, it's over. If he earns 2 points more than Mika today, it's over. For Schumacher, this is a one-race season. For Häkkinen, it needs to be a two-race season. And the gap is constant, 1 second.
They're just in a class of their own, these two, aren't they? They've just been battling it out for the last few races, just nose to tail like this. We saw Mika catching Michael at the United States Grand Prix, and today Michael is just hanging in there with Mika. Look at the lead. They've got 4.5 seconds over Coulthard and about 6 seconds over Ralf Schumacher in the Williams after only 4 laps.
Barrichello back at 6th. That battle on the start where everyone squeezed to the inside but Irvine. Put him back in 6th. Jenson Button got caught up in all that. He's 7th. Johnny Herbert 8th. Jacques Villeneuve 9th. And a look back through the field. For Häkkinen and Schumacher, for both of them, this is their 10th Japanese Grand Prix. They've each won it twice. Sure what the problem is on Fisichella, but he is well back in 20th.
Yes, he's not been happy the last 2 races, and he got quite got a lot of trouble from his boss Flavio Briatore for not being quite on top of the show in Indianapolis, allowing Wirtz to actually go quicker. And Wirtz has been getting a hammer all year, and to the degree that Wirtz is leaving the team, and now he's signed up as test driver for McLaren, which is a wonderful job to have. So his confidence is up, and suddenly he's driving exceptionally well.
Well, he's driving the way he drove last season, Wirtz is, and the way he should have been driving this season, and he probably still have a ride for next season. In Formula One rather than in testing. We're told also that Zonta has picked up a test drive. He'll be the test driver with Jordan next season, which Jordan used to have fellows come in and the test drive position was kind of like, give us some money and we'll let you run the car a little bit. But I guess now they're getting quite serious about it. And to have someone who's raced on all these circuits is going to be quite valuable to Jordan.
Well, talking about that, you start to think about just how incredibly well Jenson Button's gone versus Ralf Schumacher. And Frank Williams is sort of still keeping pretty open-minded about how poor but Juan Pablo Montoya is going to go, because he just doesn't know half these circuits, and he's just going to be on the back foot all the time. Everywhere he's going, he's going to have to learn them.
I was a bit surprised, Eric. Montoya was there at Indianapolis, of course. Almost every living Indy 500 winner was in attendance at the Grand Prix, but was forbidden by his Williams contract to give any interviews to radio or TV. Strange that.
It's most strange, isn't it?
Most.
Don't understand it.
2nd to 3rd, might as well be a whole season between Michael and David Coulthard.
Yes, it's the whole way. David, one can't help but think that McLaren would be putting that last bit of effort into Mika Häkkinen's car at this point, which is pretty tough on David. And obviously the same one has to say with Ferrari. Ferrari have been running their, they've had a C1 engine that they've been using for qualifying, but they only use their B2 engine for the race, and that is the situation this weekend. So the car obviously hasn't got quite the power that it was having in qualifying yesterday.
Now, as I said during the grid, I'm well convinced from David's comments, not from just what he said, but what he didn't say, that his car is not quite at the same spec of Mika's. I mean, it sounded as if he got everything there was out of the car, didn't talk about anything else they could have done. Let's have another look. Watch the white car, middle of the grid, behind the red car, Barrichello, and watch Ralf Schumacher come slice down across the yellow line into the pit lane, and there's that schlemazel between the 3 of them that allows Eddie Irvine to come up for 5th. But Ralf got quite a start.
Well, of course, he had a clean start and just kept his foot in it, and the others didn't have such good starts, and they end up balking one another as they went into the turn. The thing is, Schumacher doesn't want to get too close behind Häkkinen because there is that turbulent air. This circuit does have probably the most fast corners on it of any circuit. They're all medium to fast corners, apart from the hairpin you just saw, but they're all these fast corners, and if you get behind somebody like that too close, you get turbulent air, and therefore you get understeer or push, and your tires start to go away, and the car becomes most unstable. So you've got to keep that little bit of extra distance back behind the car in front.
All those fast corners and the length of the circuit comes into play. It's one of the fastest, or excuse me, one of the longest in Formula One, 3rd longest behind Spa and Hockenheim. But at Indy, everyone had to learn a new racetrack, and here at Suzuka, all the teams have had to deal with a brand new tire. What Bridgestone is calling its medium spec tire, actually softer than last year's soft compound tire and quicker than the current soft tire. And the times here 1.6 seconds quicker than last year in qualifying for the pole. There's that smoke, and maybe that's some liquid from Mika's car on the grid.
Certainly doesn't look too good on that right-hand side of his motor, that's for sure. Remember, it's his left-hand side that had the problems, and that hydraulic problems, didn't it, Mike, at the last race, followed by the engine actually expiring. So
yes, Norbert Haug said the pneumatic valve train. No valve springs in these cars. They're air-operated, air pressure-operated valves in the engine, and that was the failure that put Häkkinen out of the race. But McLaren has said, Derek, they're not concerned.
Well, they're not going to say they are they?
No, not as long as the car's running. No,
somebody might tell Ferrari about that. No, we don't know what concerns Ferrari have either.
There was once a star driver who drove for a very proud engine builder, and while leading a very important race, the car just blew up. The engine just blew up, and knowing what the builder would say when he got back, if he said the engine blew up, he said, darn starter fell out of the car, because he just wouldn't put the blame where it belonged, because nobody wanted to hear that. So, yep, McLaren says everything's fine, and I'm sure that's just what they're telling Mika. Many folks brought scanners to the United States Grand Prix, as you do to kart and NASCAR races, and were disappointed because, unlike American racing, most all the radio transmissions amongst the Formula One teams are scrambled. A lot of high-tech scrambling to prevent eavesdropping and other teams listening in. So the folks with the scanners got to hear the various broadcast channels, and that's pretty much about it.
We'll see Ralf Schumacher there. And then behind him, Irvine, behind Barrichello. Barrichello, I'm a bit disappointed in this year. He's not really... He had that wonderful win, of course, at Hockenheim. But I've been disappointed in his performance. He's not really come out really storming, has he? The way I really thought he would. Now, here we go. Oh, Jacques getting him. Oh, locking up too. There you are. That's the overtaking place we mentioned. Coming the chicane. But you've got to storm through that 130R to do that. And just get the lovely toe as you go up into the chicane.
I think the greatest shining light at Indianapolis for the media was this man, Jacques Villeneuve. He took charge of the Thursday press conference. Of course, he's raced at Indianapolis. He's won the 500 there. But when Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher Thursday struggled for an answer, Jacques would jump in and say, let me expand on that. Let me explain that. Let me tell you what it's like here. And he was very gracious with interviews all through the weekend. That dive bomb pass attempt on Frentzen was one of the great thrills, not just of the race, but of the season. And for me, the Ferrari 1-2 victory aside, Villeneuve was the star of the weekend.
Yes, he was. He was outstanding, I have to say. And he doesn't normally say much at all. He doesn't like doing any PR work. So it was, I guess he felt he's back at Indy, and he was back home where it all happened before.
Trouble for one of the arrows off to the side and coasting along. And at a halt just over that brow, so there'll be flags waving. Nope, now it looks like he's able to make it hopefully on around to the pits. So the championship chase remains Häkkinen and Schumacher, but the gap is increasing somewhat. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Japan. Mika Häkkinen leading Michael Schumacher. Schumacher leads the points. Häkkinen trying to three-peat. Jack Brabham, Jackie Stewart, Niki Lauda, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna, each with 3 world championships. One of these 2 drivers will join that list.
Yes, quite remarkable when you think about it. Wonderful group of drivers in his peers there ahead of him. Ahead of them, right, should I say.
And this morning, Derek, much like the parade of past Formula One cars at Indianapolis, Honda, which owns the Suzuka circuit, had a parade this morning of Formula One cars that have made Honda history. And Jack Brabham was driving the lead car. John Surtees, Nakajima, Berger, and Suzuki. And that as we ride along with Rubens.
We're going up the S's now. And up through Dunlop. There's a bit of a bump through there. Very fast corner. He goes under the other part of the circuit. And works his way down to the hairpin.
Next time you see that onboard view, I won't interrupt it to tell you this, but right at the A in Marlboro, you'll see that little camera that gives you what we call the bug on the windshield view that we saw there at Indianapolis. And again, our thanks to all the folks at Formula One for being able to provide us those additional views for our home Grand Prix that we could share with our U.S. audience.
I cannot believe that Rubens cannot do anything about Eddie Irvine in front of him. The power of that Ferrari. But it just shows how much grip the Jag does have. Now they've got it together. They worked on some aerodynamic effects at Silverstone when they came back to the United States Grand Prix on their training cars. And they brought it for both the cars here, and it's obviously working.
Quite well. Jos Verstappen took his arrows to the garage, pulled into the pit, backed it in the garage. He is still in the car. They're trying to make repairs, and now there's activity at Sauber, which had dismal qualifying. Mika Salo in the T car, which was set up for Denitz. And Denitz had a much better run than 20th would indicate, but the penalty that took away his two best qualifying laps stuck him well back on the grid. So activity there. We're told that Jarno Trulli, instead of being on a one-stop strategy with nothing to lose, that they may, in fact, Derek, have started with a very, very light fuel load and be on a three-stop strategy.
Well, he's come up 5 places since the start of the race, so I guess it's working, but he's going to lose it all when he goes into stop.
Well, Trulli up to 10. But that extra time along pit lane and getting service.
Well, they have altered the pit lane a bit this year, everybody. The pit entrance used to be before the chicane, and this year they've got it just afterwards. You go through the chicane, and then, of course, you tuck into it. So, in fact, it's actually a bit slower because you used to speed down past the chicane on a nice straight bit of road. You'll see the exit just as they go out of this corner, or the entrance to the chicane as they go out this corner. There it is.
There's been a bit of reconstruction here, too, with the garage area at Suzuka. And there was an earthquake earlier in the weekend in the region that was felt here at the circuit. Peter can tell us more.
Well, yes, there was an earthquake here on Friday at Suzuka. Not everybody in the pit lane felt it, but shortly afterwards, Jacques Villeneuve left the road in his BAR, and the rumor was that it was because of the earthquake. Jacques, of course, denied that. But take a good look at the pit lane, guys, because on the Monday after this race, or once the boys have finished packing up, this entire paddock and pit lane area is to be demolished and rebuilt in time for the 2001 Japanese Grand Prix. So this will be the last time you see the pit lane in its current form at Suzuka.
There goes Metsakani going off at the Dania curves just before he goes under the... There he goes. He'll now turn into the corner, hopefully, to go under the bridge, but he's not making a very good job of it at the moment. Lucky there was a lot of runoff area there. He also went off in the warm-up, so he's not having too good a weekend. I wonder if we'll see much of him next year.
I wonder. Well, it's Peter Denitz who's in very, very early for a scheduled stop. It's only 12 laps in. But it appears they're just doing normal service. Can he be on a 3-stop? And if so, why?
Well, exactly. I still think he's coming a bit too early for a 3-stopper because it only makes 39 laps if he's on a, he'll be on a 4-stopper at this rate just to make 52.
Well, with them only doing routine service, we'd have to guess it was a wheel imbalance or something of that sort.
Well, you can lock a tire up, and we're not going to see it out the far side of the circuit. He's going to lock a tire up, get it, and it gives a lot of vibration to the steering and can upset the car up. The right old train of them here, but it's only Villeneuve up front of them that's been actually doing much work about overtaking.
So Häkkinen has doubled his lead on Schumacher here at 14 laps. 2.1 seconds. Zonta battling Heidfeld. Had a look there. By the way, you could win. Actually, you could buy or bid on one of those Prosts. The Prost team and its internet sponsor Yahoo are going to auction one of the cars and donate the proceeds to UNICEF. No engine.
There's not much good to you, and it wasn't much good with the engine in it. The other amazing thing is that all the drivers have given all their overalls to the United States Grand Prix, and they will be auctioned, and the money will go to the widow of that poor fire marshal that was hit at Monza and killed in the Italian Grand Prix 4 weeks ago.
Paolo Gilamberti, the fire marshal who was struck by debris in that turn or second chicane accident on the first lap there at Monza, and that's a very, very nice gesture by the Formula One community. There are other fundraising efforts underway to take care of his family, and that's should be well recognized. Very much appreciated. Häkkinen with a look in his mirrors, and all he sees is red.
Only a spot of red, let me tell you, too.
Yes, it's a dwindling spot, isn't it?
Well, he hasn't changed much, 2 seconds. We'll see what happens when he gets towards the pit stops to see just if Michael will start to pull up a bit. Remember, if he pushes Mika all the time, he's not going to get by him. So he may as well settle back a bit, let Mika get in a full sense of security, and Michael save his car and tyres to go the distance, or go up until the stop.
Well, the Jordan mechanics have come out, and that would presumably be for Trulli. I say presumably, of course it is. Trulli in at lap 15, the first of what we're told could be 3 stops. And interesting in one of the press conferences this weekend that Mugen may remain in Formula One. We had been told earlier that both Jordan and BAR would receive official Honda engines, but the Mugen people may remain involved. They have been supplying the engines to Jordan, a different engine than Honda has been supplying to BAR. So news on that for sure in Malaysia in 2 weeks' time. We'll be back for the first round of pit stops. Mika Häkkinen leads Michael Schumacher in the Japanese Grand Prix. Eddie Irvine is in at lap 16.
Because he was lying in 5th place. Oh dear, what have they done? They haven't loaded the car. There the car is 10 seconds. That wasn't part of the plan. Remember, he goes out on the rev limiter, limiting the speed as he goes up the pit lane. And off he can go and lets it fly. He's still out in front of this group.
So Irvine will slip from 5th. Made his debut here, 1993 for Eddie Jordan. Last corner, a little bit of smoke off Jacques' left rear. As he chases Jenson Button. Well, Jacques didn't get the start that he'd gotten in 3 of the last 5 Grand Prix, but he's been the one doing the passing and moving up the board.
Oh, as he's making the move, he's doing a super job. Remember, the Honda have got a sort of a special engine for this race weekend. It didn't show much in qualifying, but Jacques is certainly showing the strength with the car now. He hasn't been happy with the setup. The car is closing right up on Jenson Button, and he's going to give him a lot of pushing at the chicane very shortly. Remember, that's where he overtook just now. A very super move on Herbert.
Mazzacani in for an 8.3 second stop for Minardi. It's been pretty evident, Derek, the last half dozen or so races that Jacques' confidence level in the car is way, way up. He's been taking chances with it, and the car has really been much closer to being a contender than we've seen since BAR started nearly 2 years ago.
Well, they seem to have settled down themselves. They got themselves a bit more of a rhythm as a team. Let's ride with Jacques. Circuit.
Activity at Sauber.
You can see Villeneuve closing up on Jenson Button as they go round. Whoa! Jenson had the tail out there as they go around. They were going around. Coming out of the spoon, that would have given Jacques a bit of extra momentum onto the straight. As they come up to 130R, he's much closer than before, but remember, he's going to have a lot of turbulence as they go in here. A little bit of lift off as they turn in, and then woof, you just go through that corner. Here he is again. Remember, he's giving Jenson Button a workout. Remember, Jacques has been IndyCar champion, won the Indy 500 and world champion. This is Jenson Button's first year and his first time in a racing car, actually, as Herbert comes in. First time in a racing car at Suzuka.
Johnny Herbert with tire pressure problems in at lap 18. And there's the lead, Häkkinen to Schumacher. And it's Wirtz, Salo, and Heidfeld in the pit lane.
What a contrast to last year when they came into course on a slightly harder tire. Therefore, they could do it all on two strokes. This year, they're really pushing the envelope. These softer tires are working extremely well, giving the guys much more confidence. I wonder what Ferrari's and McLaren's strategy is going to be.
Verstappen is now climbed from his car. He's out of the race with hydraulic problems in his arrows.
Neither Häkkinen or Michael Schumacher not doing exceptionally fast laps. They're only in the 39s. In the warm-up this morning, they were running in the low 38.0, Michael did, in race setup. And pole, of course, was a factor of what was a 135.825. 9 thousandths of a second quicker than Mika, so they're way off pole.
Ralf Schumacher in for his first stop at lap 19. And Jacques Villeneuve in as well.
Well, Jacques was being held up by Jenson Button, so that was quite a good idea for them to bring Jacques in. Good stop by Williams.
Right front wing adjustment on Ralph's car. Some 23 people involved in this pit stop. Nice, good, clean stop for Jacques, under 7 seconds. This should be Frentzen.
Ferrari getting ready.
And there's a possibility that Barrichello's running this race on a one stop, and that may be a little bit of strategy, knowing that he started well off.
Oh, look, we have a spinner.
Is that a Lacey? It is. Oh, sadly. What a dreadful season.
I think that's on the way up through the S's. The back of the circuit, there's going to be cars flying up there. Best to get him off that road quickly, boys. A lot of fluid pouring out the car. I think he spun on his own engine. His engine expired and he flew around. Those Peugeot engines have been diabolical this year.
And you saw him looking nervously toward the oncoming traffic. You see the line is right where his car was sitting.
Well, those guys are coming up there pretty quickly, you have to admit, Michael. They're coming up there at 130, up to 150, 60 miles an hour. So I'd want to get out of the way too. In fact, I lost it going up there one day in the wet in the 962. Here comes Barrichello into the pits.
Lap 20. Lacey will be back with Prost next season. 7 seconds for Barrichello.
Well, judging by the way they're coming in now, he's going to have one small stop to go before the end. So we were told he's on a one stop. But obviously, I imagine he isn't on a one stop. McLaren of Hakkinen working his way through the traffic. Schumacher then has to follow behind him in that traffic as well.
With all the talk about team tactics at Indianapolis, we saw when Coulthard was in the lead off the start of the race that his lap times fell off such that Mika Hakkinen could catch up the lead duo of Coulthard and Schumacher.
Here comes the explosion on that Peugeot engine. Look, I'd hate to be the guy behind. You wouldn't know where to go, would you? Goodness gracious me, look at it. Really blew up.
Yep. And then right into the groove.
Yeah, look at it. There you can see the fluid pouring out the back of the car. Not nice for him at all. Probably quite happy it's all over. He hasn't had a happy weekend this weekend. Not happy with the car. Very nervous, twitchy. And it's certainly not what you want around this circuit.
I was saying, Derek, I wonder, is it possible that Ferrari could come up with a strategy whereby with the timing of stops, Rubens might end up on the track somewhere just ahead of Mika? I suppose if you made an extra pit stop.
Yeah, but I don't think he was far enough. Oh, the extra, by the final one, yes.
Maybe.
Not at the moment. Yes, it
no,
could be.
but
yeah, they'd be pretty cunning.
As in chess, you're always thinking several moves out ahead. I wonder. Oh, we'll know in a while. Not that they do that on purpose, of course not. Mika Hakkinen leads from Michael Schumacher. 2.4 seconds the last time by is the difference between the two championship contenders. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Lap 22, Mika Hakkinen comes to the pit lane. There's activity at Ferrari. Will Schumacher, or did he go on by?
They weren't getting ready for him, so I imagine he's not come in this time. Good stop by McLaren. Superb stop. They can't afford to make any errors at all. Now Ferrari can't afford to either. Now he's going to have some pretty quick laps. Now is Michael Schumacher turning in some quick laps right at the end of his run here.
And now Ferrari is out. They'll come in this time. They had come out into the pit lane with McLaren, but it was kind of a half-hearted.
They came out to check. They can't.
Yes.
There they are. They're ready now. They can't come out until the lap that the car is due in on. There we come. Beautiful shot. The second part of the spoon. Keep it in fairly tight. You can see all that white cement there. That was Dönitz who blew up yesterday in qualifying and then proceeded to drive around the whole track to get back because he didn't want to walk. And he got penalised badly. Lost the fastest 2 laps of his qualifying session. Michael going around 130R. Down the chicane.
From this view, you really get a sense of just how fast that is.
Now they're going to pop into the pit lane. Here he comes, and he'll just flicker right. There he goes. Speed restriction now on that line. Bit slower than Hakkinen. He was ready to go, but the fueler hadn't got the pipe off at that point. Here he comes. There's Hakkinen coming by the pits now. Now Schumacher's going to be on it, and off he goes. There it is. Out he goes. Status quo.
But that 0.7 of a second longer on the stop is of no help to Michael Schumacher. So David Coulthard has yet to pit.
And is currently in the lead of the race, of course. Look at that tyre. Whoa. They've really worn that tyre down.
And the wear was to the outside of the rear tire. Not sure if that was a left or a right, but we had seen a little bit of tire smoke off the left rear in some of those.
Yeah, I just said it.
Forward corners.
It would have to be the left rear. Yep. So that's the tyre that takes all the loading, or most of the loading.
And now McLaren is ready for Coulthard. good chase he and Jakob had there. Little shake-up there back beyond fourth place after the pit stops. Barrichello now ahead of Ralf Schumacher, and Button in front of Irvine and Villeneuve, who had slipped back.
Here he comes. Super stop by McLaren yet again.
Best yet.
26. This is the guy that we thought had the makings of being world champion this year. He was storming mid-season. Absolutely outrageous bit of driving mid-season. His confidence was up and he was giving Mika Häkkinen a really hard time when Mika's confidence was low.
So with the first round of pit stops complete, they've cycled through the field. Häkkinen back to the front. Schumacher second. Coulthard, Barrichello. Now Ralf Schumacher ahead of Button.
I'll have to say, whenever we get this McLaren into race trim, it just does the business. It's just such a perfect machine. Everything about it is just right. And of course, they have a lot of history on this circuit. A lot of work here, a lot of testing over the years. Here we go. Oh, what a super bit of move there. Oh, dear. But
trying, Eddie.
Rather like turn one at Indy, he only just did it. So he just said, well, I'll take the bottom of the car off on these rocks as I go over it now.
Instead of taking the right side of it off on Eddie.
But he's been doing some wonderful work today in the overtaking.
Villeneuve with 14 points on the season, and that's 14 more than VAR had in their inaugural season. And as Peter tipped, big shakeups coming at VAR and British American Tobacco, which owns the team. And there's the gap, 2.4 seconds, first to second. And look at what's happened to Mika Häkkinen's fortunes since joining McLaren Mercedes. 18 wins in 48 starts. That is a pretty good average. It's about a 375 if you're a hitter. So that's knocking a few of them out of the park.
Amazing thing is that actually Michael and he, in their last 40 races, have both won 13 Grand Prix. And they're both on the same number of Grand Prix competed in, 134. Remember, of course, they both had accidents. Michael had his last year, and of course Mika had his in Australia 2 years before that.
And here we find them at Suzuka, so evenly matched in practice and qualifying and in statistics at this track. But Mika got off to a better start, and that has made half of the difference that you see here. Probably the other half is a few tenths on the pit stop, and just the fact, as you stated, that the McLaren in race trim is consistently just a tick better than the Ferrari.
You just got to remember that Ferrari, though, do build every darn component on that car. They build the engine, the gearbox, the chassis, everything. McLaren's engines, one has to say, are made by Mercedes-Benz or whoever, and that makes it more difficult for Ferrari. They have to compete against a manufacturer and an engine manufacturer, and that is pretty tough for them to do. They actually have they built 9 cars already this year, Ferrari. They've got 45 engineers working on the Formula 1 project. They have a 50% model in the wind tunnel that runs 24 hours a day. Wow. Trying to get the perfection out of that chassis. So they are doing it, working at it very, very hard. I thought that Michael might have tried to push Häkkinen towards the end of that stint and catch him up a little bit to put pressure on him at the pit stops, but he didn't quite make it, and he didn't really get a dynamically quick lap on his last lap. But he's got to be really close at the next pit stop, right up the back of Mika if he's to make any sense out of having a worthwhile pit stop, because there's 2 seconds between them, and if he only makes half a second in a pit stop, it doesn't do too much good.
No. So for the first 6 positions, we're right back to grid positions, although mirror image. Häkkinen, Schumacher, Coulthard, Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher, Button. 26 laps complete. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Japanese Grand Prix from the garage of Williams, where Jenson Button again has been a star all weekend. I was fortunate enough to drive into the circuit with him on Saturday morning, and I have to say, I imagine what it was like when the Beatles were touring Japan. The girls were 10 deep as he got out of his BMW by the swipe area. It was extremely impressive. Derek, I'm sure you know what that feels like. Let's hear all about it. Back to you.
I don't know what he's talking about. I've never experienced anything like that, Peter, but I've certainly seen it with those other drivers. I was never in Formula One long enough, and I was never good enough either.
Well done, Peter. Jarno Trulli was in. You just saw him exiting the pits at lap 29. And on a couple of the camera lenses, we've seen raindrops. The flags are straight out. And last lap, Jacques Villeneuve was there. You see the raindrops. Jacques Villeneuve was 2.5 seconds off on his last lap. We didn't see quite what happened to him.
Well, Michael Schumacher's pulled back 3/4 of a second on Mika in the last lap, so he's reveling in this damp conditions, and you can see the gap there now. He's hauling in Mika Häkkinen. As soon as he gets damp, Michael is on a flyer. He's out wide around that turn 2, coming up the hill at 160 miles an hour, and he's really going to close in right now. He was 6/10 quicker than Mika last lap.
Nice of Trulli to move aside. Speaking to Atlas F1, Schumacher said, "I have a principle in life. What you shout into a forest will echo back at you." And we've seen a definite thawing of the relationship between Häkkinen and Schumacher. You couldn't call them close friends because they're bitter rivals on the racetrack. But I think there's a very, very healthy respect. Schumacher softened as Häkkinen showed a very professional attitude toward him. Michael went on to say there are people who look for trouble and people who don't look for trouble. They look for fighting on the track, and I think that's why he and Mika have such a good relationship.
Well, Mika actually never says anything bad about anybody. I have to say he always reserves his opinions. He's very, very good about it. It looks like Frenzen's pulled off the road.
And out.
And out. That's the end of the Jordan Mugen Honda. But there was the other day at Spa, I remember that wonderful overtaking maneuver of Mika overtaking Michael up the hill. Afterwards, they were seen in the Ferrari hospitality, both drinking beer and smoking on a cigar. So they do get on pretty well together. They have to relax together from time to time. He puts back that steering wheel back on the car, which you have to do. You have to put it back on within 10 seconds because they have to be able to move the car, otherwise you get penalized. Look now how Mika got really badly held up there. Michael's all over the back of him now.
Well, when it's been raining, there is how Ferrari has prevailed. You'd call the U.S. Grand Prix a rain race for those first 10 laps, at least, with the damp track and everyone starting on rain tires, all but one driver.
Can you imagine just how Häkkinen is feeling now? He knows it's damp. It's not raining much because there's not as much rain on that camera lens, but it's raining enough on Schumacher. He always has this bit over Mika when it starts to get damp. Mika does not like this varying conditions.
You see, only in certain parts of the circuit do we have a bit of rain on the lens and a little bit of dampness on the track. But there is, you can talk all day about which is the world's best race car, who is the greatest driver, but in the rain, no one really compares with Michael.
Well, look at him in the last 2 laps, how he's caught Mika. It has to be the dampish conditions. It certainly isn't that damp because they're still doing the same lap times. But as soon as it got a little scud of wet on the road, Mika backed off just that little bit. Very cautiously. I don't blame him because he's not going to win the World Championship if he spins off the road.
Now in 95, Schumacher won here in the rain. It's rained during the race in 88 when Senna won, 93 when Senna won, 94 Damon Hill, and 95 Michael. So 4 rain races. Now the last 4 Japanese Grand Prix have been run in the dry.
The fans are getting a bit excited now. You can hear the old sirens going and the trumpets going. Normally the Japanese crowds are very, very calm. I remember arriving there one morning thinking, where are all the people? Because there's no traffic on the road. And when we walked in, they're all sitting in the stands. Absolutely silent. They're already there waiting for the action.
McLaren have won 5 times at Suzuka, including the last 2 years. And also hold the absolute qualifying record here set by Gerhard Berger in 1991.
Well, we expect Mika Häkkinen possibly on lap 35 and Michael 2 laps later. on lap 37. Michael is worrying Mika right now, and if I was Mika, I would be not looking in my mirror. I'd just be driving as flat as I possibly could. You start to look at that red car zooming up under braking. Here's a little bit more rain on the screen now, and that puts Mika off. And as soon as you start getting deterred by that in these conditions, when it starts to get damp, you're going to go off the road. You've got to concentrate 1,000% of the time. We saw that with Michael at Indianapolis. The times have dropped a couple of seconds a lap. Now they're down to lapping in the 141s. They were lapping in 139s. So it shows it is getting damper. And now, of course, it's going to be critical. And Michael is sitting behind Mika. And there's Mika's wife nervously watching. We look at the Ferrari pit as well. Now, Mika's got to make the move to go in, because Michael can sit about him as long as he likes. As soon as Mika makes that move for the pits, Michael will stay out and he'll gain that very valuable time. That's assuming if it really gets wet. At the moment, it isn't wet enough for wet tires.
Well, we saw the wear on Michael's left rear that came off on the first stop. It had pretty well worn down slick on the outer half of the tire. And if these conditions deteriorate much further, to be dancing around out there on old worn tires is not going to be a lot of fun.
No, he possibly hasn't got the situation. He's worn them out yet, because he did sort of steady back there for a while. They can't do any adjustments, of course, to the car, and that sort of suspension adjustment. They can do some aerodynamic moves. They can't do much. Now they're catching up some traffic to make it a little bit more interesting.
Well, in qualifying, it was a game of thousands. And it is here in the race as well.
These two do seem to be in a class of their own. They work their way around back onto the straight again, working their way back up to 185, 190 miles an hour. Just a dab of the brakes, in some cases a little bit of feathering of the throttle to flick through this Castrol, this 130R.
The gap at 0.7 seconds. At least one more pit stop. If Schumacher wins this race, he is the world champion. There is no way that Häkkinen can clinch the title today. If Schumacher scores 2 or more points more than Häkkinen, it's over. If Häkkinen finishes anywhere ahead of Schumacher, we go on to Malaysia to decide the where we will anyway, but to decide the championship, we go on to Malaysia.
Not easy to overtake these cars. They're catching up a Sauber in front there. It's not easy to overtake them on these S's on the way up the hill. He's kept right over. My goodness, these back markers are being a little bit too reverent today. They're really getting out of the way, these guys. They don't fancy that black and white flag coming out. But they were just told, do not get in the way, and balk.
That's Ricardo Zonta just ahead in the BAR. Well, nobody wants to be the driver that would cost one of these two the championship.
Well, Mika Salo gave up about, quite a fair old... he was right up behind Zonta, 0.9 of a second behind him, and he gave up a lot of room there, because you can see Zonta's still in front. You can see Salo right at the back. He gave a lot of room up to back off on those S's. That was very, very gentlemanly of him, very sportsmanlike. Remember, Zonta had a moment with Michael Schumacher in Austria when he punched him off on the first corner. Yes. Come on, Zonta, don't get in the way again. No, he doesn't. Nope. Not this time, Michael. I promise I won't do it again.
Ooh, whoa, that was close.
But Michael was trying to use all the road. Right. There is that black spot that you just cannot see out the side of the car. And you have very little peripheral vision.
Yeah, there is a certain breed of driver, and Schumacher appears to be one, that when his front wheel clears the other car, he's assumed he's clear, that it's his racetrack, and over we come. Here's another look. You'll see just how close they come.
Well, Michael moves right out wide, and he doesn't think Zonta's given him more room than his luck. Zonta was very, very careful there. Very lucky, too, that he didn't just get that wheel a little bit more on the grass.
So Schumacher throwing most caution to the wind and trying to prevail here in Japan. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Suzuka. Ralf Schumacher and Mika Salo have been in for their second pit stop. Häkkinen now leads Michael Schumacher by less than a second. The question will be, if Häkkinen stops first, can Schumacher put a couple of quick laps on the board, enough so that if he gets as fast a pit stop as Mika, which he didn't the first stop in, would he have the lead when he comes out? And that could be the whole championship right there.
Absolutely, and that's when you realize teamwork is such a major part of this, and Ferrari have put so much into it. McLaren have too. They incredible amount of testing. They do something like 20 practice pit stops on the Thursday before every Grand Prix at the Grand Prix circuit they're at. McLaren are getting ready now. It's about time that Häkkinen did come in. They're going to have to be so sharp. Remember, they're just going to be just as nervous as those drivers as they come in. A very, very critical time for all the teams right now, because this is the win or lose of the championship as far as today's concerned. Häkkinen hopes that it will carry on to the next. Here they're getting held up a little bit by back markers.
And that's what
Häkkinen in. Häkkinen's in.
Yep, that's what will bring Mickey in, is that traffic.
The traffic is a good move, because those two cars in front will now hold up Schumacher. It's quite a shrewd move by McLaren to bring Mika in then, although he was due in at around this time. He's due in at lap 35, so he's a couple of laps over there. 7.5 seconds, a bit slower than the last one.
But perhaps a bit more fuel on.
Same time that Michael took, actually, 7.4. Now he goes out. There's Barrichello going by the pits with a flash of red.
And what did I say earlier about positioning him just in front of Mika? My goodness.
Well, if they're getting ready for him in the pits, maybe, he's not going to be much good.
No, but now, might they leave him out a bit?
Now Michael's got to contend with these two cars in front of him. Oh, the Jags pulled over to let him through. Thank you very much. You need just a nice clear. Ooh, it's a bit slippery in there, I'll tell you. It doesn't look that dry as they go in there.
No. Well, in chess, you'd sacrifice a knight or a rook to save a queen. And there is Rubens. And Mika's going to be not far back. And a little bit of rain falling.
See the rain falling. Yeah. Ross Brawn looking up in the air. Remember, Mika, of course, is on newer tires. Häkkinen's on newer tires. Michael's on the sort of worn tires. But in these conditions, actually, the tires don't really affect it at all, because it's the heat of the tires that really work.
But for Michael to capitalize, he's got to get through this traffic. Otherwise, being out there is of no value to him. And Ferrari rushes to position. But who is it for?
It's not for him. He decided not to come. They were ready. He would just. The trouble is, you don't know how wet it is around the track. Come on, Johnny. You better give Michael a hard time down here into turn one.
Plenty of room.
He doesn't. You just have to keep going around, because the rain is in various areas on the track, and so you come through one section, go, oh, it's wet. I've got to come in, boys. I'm coming in for tires. And then you get to the other part, and you go, oh no, it's all right. All right, it's not too bad out here. And it moves around the circuit.
So Schumacher now has some clear track to run on. 26 seconds nearly. Here's the gap. And they're going to put dry tires on Rubens' car when he comes in. So Barrichello is in. He does not stay out on the track and hold up Häkkinen.
Obviously, the Bridgestone people want to check the tires out that he's taken off the car to see what wear there is on his tires, and just how bad or how that might affect Michael. Of course, Schumacher is running quicker.
That was Jenson Button we saw going by.
Now, will he come out ahead of Ralf Schumacher? Remember, he was ahead of Ralf Schumacher. He got by him before Ralf pitted. Let's just see if Jenson goes out in front of him now.
Jenson gave up 5th place to pit. And Michael still out there.
Well, everybody's lapping in like 142s. Michael is lapping in 140s, as you'd expect, as he does in these conditions.
So McLaren setting up for Coulthard. And leaving Michael out there to burn up some fast laps. Once he got past Herbert, that could just be the move that makes his season.
Well, they'll be telling him exactly how far Mika is behind him. They're getting ready for him now, but he'll know exactly, and this will be the most critical point, as you said, Michael.
Yeah, this will have to be a World Championship pit stop right here. Schumacher must get back on track ahead of Häkkinen to have a chance to clinch this championship today. Dry tires ready for Schumacher. Now he won't need much fuel. He'll have, 12 laps to run.
That is the other advantage of coming in later. And historically, over the years, we've always seen Ferraris coming in later than McLaren. McLaren's coming in later than Ferraris, and therefore Ferraris have had to take on more fuel, but Ferrari seem to have got their cars running much more efficiently this season. And these 3 laps that Michael stayed out makes a tremendous amount of difference. Well, he makes quite a lot of difference. Oh, spinner! One of the 2 Benettons. Not a good place to spin.
Alexander Wirtz, we're told, and
it's the second time he's done that. Now then, boys, this has got to be the cleanest bit of work you've ever seen. Oh, 6 seconds! Whoa, what a stop by Ferrari. Hark at the crowd. Here comes Häkkinen coming around the chicane, and Michael's already out of the pit road. He's in front this time. Here he goes. Häkkinen's coming into view now. And Michael Schumacher goes out the pits. Hark at the crowd. Just hark at that Ferrari crowd in Japan. Unbelievable.
Fantastic work by the Ferrari crew. And Schumacher, after getting past Herbert, just burning up some really fast laps. And that may be the season. Right there. Look at the comparison of pit times. 6/10 quicker for Häkkinen on the first stop. But Schumacher, and some of it due to the fact that he would have needed less fuel when he made his stop with less laps to run. High fives around, stone-faced in the McLaren garage. A 1.4-second faster stop for Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, an outstanding stop by Ferrari. I have to say, great tactics by Ross Brawn, as always, working very closely with Schumacher. They talked the whole way through, all the way through towards these pit stops. They would have been talking about how do we do it. And as soon as they had settled on how far Mika Häkkinen was behind, or how many seconds he was behind it, they allowed Michael to come in and put on that fuel. Beautiful strategy.
We did not see David, but Coulthard pitted at lap 40. But that doesn't mean it's over. Schumacher still has to, you see the lead there, 4.2 seconds, and while it's a sizable advantage, still plenty of laps to run.
It's still a little bit moist out there. They're running in the 142s, so it's still not perfect conditions, but Mika seems to have made up just a little bit of room.
"12 laps to go. Michael Schumacher, is he en route to his 3rd World Championship today? We'll come back and find out. Fox Sports Net's 3rd season of Formula One concludes in 2 weeks' time. With the Grand Prix of Malaysia, most of you in the East and Midwest will see it live at something like 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings for the Grand Prix of Malaysia on Fox Sports Net. Ralf Schumacher is out of the race. He has spun off at turn 1, bounced up on the curve, spun into the gravel, high-sided or centered the car, and spun the wheels helplessly in the gravel and climbed out from 6th place. That moves Villeneuve up to 6th behind Jenson Button.
Well, Button was already 6 seconds ahead of Ralf, so he was going incredibly well as we ride with Jack. He's going up for the S's. And we were on board with Jacques Villeneuve, who's chasing this young man.
And let's show you what happened to Ralf Schumacher.
He comes into turn 1 right behind the Minardi. We just missed just where he did it, but I would suggest he had to back off a bit because he caught the Minardi up too much. Because you come in 6th, drop it down again another gear for the second part, and he caught the white line as well, which would have been damp and therefore very slippery. Around he went.
You see a lot of those cannon billboards here at Suzuka. Is expected that we'll see those on the side of the Prost next year. Gauloises Gitane, which The cigarette company has backed Ligier since 1976, it says, and which then became Prost. They are getting out of Formula One, and so that's likely to be the Cannon-Prost, or Cannon-Ecclestone, as some folks feel in Formula One, that Bernie has provided the float to keep Alain Prost's team upright.
Well, you have to say that about Bernie Ecclestone. I mean, he gets a lot of criticism, but when a team is in difficulties, Bernie will often step in, and Farmatsu, as we see one of the two Benettons off the road there as well. But no, Bernie will step in and put the finance up to get the team running, and also he's obliged to provide 22 to 24 cars for every Grand Prix, and he wants the Prost team in there. He doesn't want to lose it.
Rumored that Marc Genet is headed for Prost and bringing Telefonica along with him.
The gap is now up to 4.8 seconds between Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen. It was 4.5, it's 4.8 now. So Michael is very, very firmly on it, in charge of this race at the moment. Let's just pray for Ferrari that engine keeps running.
Well, Ferrari came in with a 10-point lead over McLaren Mercedes. As we remember, there's not one but two championships at stake here. And presently, Ferrari could, with the present positions, leave here with 13 points to McLaren's 10 and expand that gap even further, though not clinch the Constructors' title here at Suzuka.
Well, if Michael does manage to pull this one off, he'll become another Ferrari world champion, another statistic with Ferrari. Alberto Ascari won in 52 and 53, Fangio in 56, Mike Hawthorne in 58. Phil Hill was world champion, the great Phil Hill, American driver, in 61. John Surtees in 64, Niki Lauda 75 and 77, and Jody Scheckter in 79. And Michael Schumacher would be the world champion in the year 2000.
It would be Michael's third title, but he joined Ferrari after winning 2 world championships for Benetton.
Yes, and he's stuck with them for the last 5 years, developing, bringing this team, gelling it all around him, building it up into this incredible setup that they have now from a team that really had lost its way. And he's the man that's done this with Ross Brawn. He's brought Ross Brawn in, who was with him at Benetton, Rory Byrne that was with him. He's got a group of men around him that have stayed there, and I haven't seen anybody even leaving Ferrari and going anywhere else. They're very happy to provide the equipment to try and make this man into world champion. It could well be happening today.
Schumacher seeking his 43rd victory today. Häkkinen has 18, Jacques Villeneuve 11, and Coulthard 9. And you got a feel for Mika Häkkinen, who Derek, I feel, has developed through these 3 championship seasons, not just as a driver. We did say over the past 2 years that he's driving the world's best car, so certainly not only deserves to be world champion, but is expected to be world champion. But to see him mature as a driver and a person, and as a fellow who last year had trouble dealing with tremendous pressure, and this year it seems to be a whole different Mika Häkkinen, and a fellow that I think this year, win or lose this championship, at the end of this season, he will considerably gain fan support from where he was the 2 years prior.
There's no getting away from it. Mika's always been a very nice person, a delightful person, but he's not good with the crowd. And I think you develop, you end up maturing, and both Schumacher's matured. Remember, Schumacher's made some pretty diabolical moves on the track over the years, and he's calmed down a bit. He's much better about what he does, and Mika is maturing in the same way.
And the two of them are an on-the-road comedy act. Thursday, they broke up the press conference. Michael saying, will he do anything different? He was asked if he'd do anything different in this race. And he says, well, you know, not really, no. Mika, what will you do differently? Well, I'll try to break 3 meters later, 3 yards later at every corner. Well, Michael, will you do anything different? Well, if he breaks 3 meters, I'll break 5 meters later. Mika says, we'll see you in the gravel trap. Michael goes, we'll be in there together. And the whole press conference breaks up.
Don't laugh, it might just happen any minute.
Gosh, I hope not. But
still 4.6 seconds between them. Mika is obviously trying everything he can, but he knows that if he catches him, he's then got to try and get by him. And Michael just has that gap, that bit at the moment. I tell you what, to take that world champion from Schumacher now, although he's pulled in 3/10 that lap, is going to be pretty tough.
Coulthard is 3rd, Barrichello 4th, Jenson Button is 5th, Jacques Villeneuve is 6th, Johnny Herbert, Eddie Irvine, the rest of the top 10, Zonta and Salo. Michael's led 12 of the 46 laps, 4 lead changes, all coming on pit stops. 18 cars remain. Low attrition for Suzuka. Out of the race are Alesi, Verstappen, Frentzen with transmission problems, and Ralf Schumacher spun into the gravel.
Not a bad race for attrition at all.
No.
You think it with Michael taking it very cautiously around the inside as he goes round the hairpin. Yes, very wise there too. You never know. Look at the two Jags though, fantastic. 7th for Herbert, 8th for Irvine. Remember Johnny Herbert's in his penultimate Formula One race. He'll be leaving and moving on elsewhere next year. Irvine in 8th place.
Yeah, all that testing last week at Silverstone and the aerodynamic changes that they've made at Jaguar and whatever other development changes they've made, putting them up into 7th and 8th. So a very good weekend for Jaguar.
You just can't imagine what Schumacher must be feeling. He's starting to feel that that World Championship with that Ferrari is within his grasp.
What'll be the primary emotion, Derek? Elation or relief?
Oh, it'd be unbelievable. I mean, there will be such relief for everybody. Remember, just think of last year and the year before. I mean, the crash last year and the fact how close they've been over the last 2 seasons. Then to actually put the whole thing together and win. They haven't won yet, but if they do get it together, I mean, amazing for them. Wonderful for the whole team, and I believe they really deserve it, and it's excellent for Formula One. Formula One needs Ferrari to win a World Championship. It is the most recognizable name in the world, I have to say. McLaren still do a brilliant job, as with Mercedes, but it's still Ferrari.
Traffic will be a little bit of a factor. That's Eddie Irvine in 8th place, just ahead of Michael on the racetrack. And you see his lap times compare favorably there with Mika's. We'll be back for the finish of the Japanese Grand Prix. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Japan. Michael Schumacher has dispensed with Eddie Irvine and Johnny Herbert. And is that Marc Genet by the side of the road with his Minardi. And he becomes the 5th retiree from this race. And there may be trouble for Schumacher's teammate, Rubens Barrichello. 2 laps ago, his lap was 3 seconds off Schumacher's pace, and his last lap was nearly 5 seconds off pace, and he's now just 6 seconds ahead of Jenson Button in that 4th and 5th place position. So Barrichello considerably slower than any of the first 6 contenders these last couple of laps, and there he's fallen into the clutches of Button.
Well, we just saw Michael go by Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques pulled over very generously on the way up the way up the hill. The guy that this weekend, Jacques Villeneuve's wearing his hair red, says that it's because he's favouring Michael Schumacher, but we all know that in reality he's a great friend of Mika Häkkinen's. They live in Monaco together, or close together.
I will say, Derek, unlike last season, there's been a tremendous amount of awareness and courtesy on the part of drivers staying out of this championship battle and giving plenty, like way too much room for overtaking.
Well, they have, and as the season progressed, I mean, it's become very apparent that some of the players were getting a little bit too personal about it, and if you're not really fending for the championship, you should let the other drivers by. But nonetheless, it is still motor racing, and you can't go pandering to people all the time.
No. And there's the gap up to 5.1 seconds.
Michael will now start to take a little easier. He'll start to cruise just a little bit. Short shift the gears, but you don't want to change too much, because if you suddenly change your rhythm, things can happen.
And Barrichello's back on pace. Button has knocked down that gap to 6 seconds, but Barrichello's back lapping within half a second of Schumacher. 3 laps to go.
Michael pulled out half a second that lap. Mika's all but given up the fight. Remember, Jody Scheckter was the last world champion. He said, I've carried the mantle long enough. I'm ready to hand it over to somebody. And he reckons that Schumacher deserves it and Ferrari deserves it. But there won't be many people that don't think they don't deserve it. McLaren have had a good run for 2 years. Ferrari deserve a victory. So does Schumacher. He's fought with these guys. He could have gone to McLaren 5 years ago. He could have probably won the World Championship 2 or 3 times with McLaren, but he opted to go the hard route and bring Ferrari back through. And it's amazing that he has done that. Enzo Ferrari would be very proud.
And the big beneficiary of all this are the fans. Derek, this season has been such a seesaw fight for the World Championship, and so close between Ferrari and McLaren. It's going to sell a lot of tickets for next year.
Oh yes, it's going to be you know, a lot more people are watching it, and it's been close, it's been exciting, there's been drama, and now we've got this, and we've got a really close championship at the end. Mika Hakkinen was leading. Now look at Michael, he's up in front of him. Some great work in the pits
and some great strategy in keeping him out on track.
Whoa,
a little wiggle there.
At a cool 160-mile-an-hour wiggle.
I don't think there'll be any falling asleep at the wheel here.
No, you can't around this place. Well, you couldn't around Indy either, let me tell you. But
stay with us after the checkered flag for trophies, champagne, and we'll hear from the 3 podium finishers.
Schumacher he's just got it. There's Ross Brawn, the man technically behind the whole team. John Top, the competition director, in there with him as well. They cannot give up yet. They cannot be too confident. You don't go around bringing the champagne out yet, boys. There's still about another 6 or 7 miles to go.
Two laps to go, Derek, and the kid is pushing the button. Jensen's got it down to 4.7 seconds on Rubens. What a tremendously inspired drive this 20-year-old has had today. 21-year-old. He became of age somewhere around the U.S. Grand Prix. But as a driver, he's really come of age this season.
Oh, yes, he's done magnificently. And he actually outpaced his teammate Ralf Schumacher. Ralf was here winning the Formula 3000 championship. He raced here for 2 to 3 seasons. Button came here, having only driven Super A karts here, which kind of been very exciting around this circuit. Comes here and he goes out. Apart from being a second and a half behind Ralf, he caught him up and is ahead of him.
You know, for the last 2 years, Ferrari had prepared a batch of hats congratulating Michael Schumacher, world champion, and they all had to go into the shredder. This year, they didn't make any.
Well, nor would I.
No.
Should never do that. I used to hate it when people bring the champagne out and you know the car hadn't got another 5 laps to go. Believe me, there'll be no celebrating in that Ferrari pit until he comes out of this chicane for the last time. And he's only got to do it twice more.
4.8-second lead may seem like eternity, but for cars like these that are so highly stressed every lap and the concentration that's demanded, well, anything can happen, and just did to our video. We're coming to the final lap, not the final lap of this season, but the final lap of Michael Schumacher's long chase for Ferrari to win a World Driving Championship for Ferrari. They won the Constructors' Championship last year, and certainly that brought great notice to Ferrari, but this is what they wanted. Michael Schumacher atop all the drivers in the world.
Can you imagine what it's like in Maranello and Modena right now? They say they have it on a big screen in the square. It'll be on in the big screen in the square in Modena tonight, all through the night. Can you imagine the newspapers in Italy? Absolutely outrageous. It's been 21 seasons since Ferrari won a world championship with Scheckter. They've done 333 races since then. They've had 55 wins. They've runner-up 4 times in 85, 90, 98, and 99. And they're about a mile and a half from victory in the World Championship in the year 2000. Unbelievable. Michael will have some real reason for having some tears and emotion if he gets to that checkered flag. And you can bet right now he'll have a few tears even in his eyes as you go around that last lap. You know you're nearly home and dry. And please, car. You're holding the steering wheel and saying, please, car, bring me home. Just be good to me this one. Mika Hakkinen in his mirrors behind. 2 seconds the gap now, but of course, only 1 corner to go.
Hakkinen has cut the gap in half. Last time through the chicane. Flashbulbs in the stand. Wonder what they called Tifosi in Japan.
Look at this. Unbelievable. Ferrari win the World Championship. Michael Schumacher wins his 3rd World Championship and goes in the history books along with some real greats. Look how excited he is. Amazing for Ferrari. Hark at that crowd.
Schumacher said yesterday, let's not get too excited about celebrating the pole position. Tomorrow is what everything is about. And you see the emotion of everything right there.
Well, he does show consummate emotion. Mika Hakkinen, the Finn, the Scandinavian, doesn't show quite as much maybe, but Michael Schumacher, the hard man, the Iron Man, he shows emotion. Look at these Italians.
And it came down to what Michael and Mika Both said they wanted a fair fight between the two of them on the racetrack. No teammates, no back markers, no unfair moves. Good, hard heads-up racing. Pit stops strategy.
That was a team effort and a half. Absolutely magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. All that year, those years of toil. Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, John Todd, who put it all together, and Michael Schumacher gelled the whole thing. Worked hours and hours. He's one of the last ones ever to leave the paddock after the day of practice qualifying. He's always in there working.
We will have the trophies and the champagne and hear from the 2000 World Champion when we come back. The Grand Prix of Japan on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota, making it happen every day. Michael Schumacher made it happen today, winning the Japanese Grand Prix and with it the World Driving Championship over the McLarens of Häkkinen and Coulthard, his teammate Barrichello, Jenson Button and Jacques Villeneuve in the points. Then the two Jaguars, Zonta's BAR, the two Saubers and De La Rosa's Arrows, Trulli Fisichella and Mazzacani the rest of the finishers. Schumacher's point lead is unassailable over Häkkinen, Coulthard, Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher and Fisichella. And here are the rest who've scored points over the 16 races in the World Championship thus far.
And in the Constructors' Championship, we have Ferrari out there at 156 points, followed by McLaren, Williams, Benetton, BAR, Honda, and Jordan. Arrows next, Sauber next, followed by Jaguar last.
So let's go to the podium and watch Michael Schumacher celebrate his third World Driving Championship. Mr. Matsunami, the Executive Director of the Japan Automobile Federation, will present Michael's trophy.
Mr. Masatoshi Matsunami, the Executive Director of Japan Automobile Federation. To the winning constructor, Scuderia Ferrari Marlboro, represented here by the team principal Jean Todt. The trophy presented by Mr. Yasushi Mitsui, Vice President of Fuji
Fuji
Television.
TV, presenting sponsor of this Grand Prix, much as SAP was in Indianapolis.
Driver Mika Häkkinen. The trophy presented by Mr. Kensuke Fukatsu, President of Suzuka Circuit Line Company Limited. Mr. Fugatsu also presents the trophy to the third place driver, David Coulthard. And now, let the celebrations begin!
Boy, that's the quickest champagne cork removal I've seen. Michael right there to give Jean Todt the business.
They're having such a good time, but you can't outfeel a bit. The two McLaren drivers must be rather subdued, you have to say, Mike.
We will hear from Schumacher, Hakkinen and Coulthard right after this break. As Michael Schumacher's third win in a row nets his third world driving title, this should be an interesting and entertaining press conference.
Welcome to the top three finishing drivers at the year 2000 Japanese Grand Prix. It's Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. Michael Schumacher, Drivers' World Champion year 2000. How do you feel?
Similar to Monza, but don't expect me fall into tears now. But again, it's difficult to find proper words for such feeling. I mean, there was such an outbreak of emotion initially when I crossed the line. I mean, this conditions were difficult today. The rain, no rain, little bit more. The upgoing, the downgoing through the season. Even with the victory, the way we did it in, I mean, a fight until the a bit easier for me. It's simply outstanding and no words for it to explain it any.
Championship, were there periods during that period where you thought it's never going to happen again?
No, I didn't think it would never going to happen again, but obviously every year it didn't happen. It got longer and longer, and you somehow get more upset that it doesn't work finally, even though we always felt we had an opportunity, and then we couldn't use it for many reasons. And finally doing it, I mean, it's simply great. I mean, imagine what is going on right now in Italy. That must be simply amazing.
The race turned at the second pit stop, and we heard you on the driver audio thanking Ross. I mean, what was the conversation between you two around that time on the second stop?
Basically, as we saw Mika going in for his pit stop, we knew we had a couple more laps to go, and we knew these were the crucial lap. The problem was I had traffic, and I wouldn't say it was too easy to pass them because it cost me a little bit of time. And then when I entered the pits, there was this Benetton spinning in front of me and moving backwards, and I didn't know where is he going to go. So I thought it isn't enough, simply, because it was spitting off rain, and I wasn't really thinking I was going as fast as I should have done. And then I came out, and Ross kept me updated, say it's looking good, it's looking good, it's looking good down the pit lane in 80 kilometers per hour. And he says, I was just waiting for the word, no, it was not looking good enough, or things like this, because you cannot see where is your competitor. And then he said, it's looking bloody good. And that was obviously an amazing moment. And from that on, I mean, you simply just hope nothing breaks. The rain, which was going on and off again, wasn't helpful, because as you're in front, you don't want to make a mistake. If you're behind, you somehow have nothing to lose. You have to keep pushing. And it wasn't the ideal circumstance, but in the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it's ideal or not. It was enough.
Many congratulations. Thank you, Michael. Mika, you've been a superb world champion for the last 2 years, but your reign for now is over. How do you feel?
So sad. Anyway, congratulations for Michael. Anyway, really, been a great season, very tough. First of all, it's definitely has been a very interesting this year, and it has been also up and downs for us. And in other hand, I understand it's sometimes some other drivers' turn to win, and to be a good winner, sometimes you have to be a good loser too. It doesn't mean you have to be very happy about it to be second or lose, but to give the enjoyment and pleasure for the driver who has won, and that is the Michael at the moment. He's done the best possible job this year. We weren't able to do it, so naturally I feel a bit disappointed, but same time I feel I have won 2 years in a row in 98, 99, so life continues and racing continues. You have to keep fighting, and I'm sure we will see exciting races in the future too.
Talking about the race, as we said, it was the second pit stop where things changed. How did you see it from the McLaren point of view?
You know, the time when I went in the pits for my second stop, everything looked pretty good, you know, and the pit stop went fine. The mechanics and the team did a fantastic work. I went out on the track and I still realized that Michael hasn't stopped, so I automatically realized that he has an advantage to push a gap for me, and our gap was anyway, before I pitted, was something like 1 second or 1.5 seconds, so I knew it's going to be very, very tough. So when I went out, I had first of all a little bit of traffic, and some reason it started raining also, same time a little bit more, so I was just sliding all over the place, not able to get the grip on the tires. So that gave the opportunity to Michael to get in front of me in the second stop. So, and after that, you know, it was just trying to keep up and try to go flat out. Even the conditions were difficult, but it did not enough. And the final lap, obviously, Michael probably a bit slowed down, and I went like over the limit, just tried to catch for the last lap, and I got quite close, but it did not enough.
Mika, thank you very much.
Thanks.
David, I'm afraid we were concentrating on the battle between the top two there. What was your race like?
Well, I completely understand. I had a very quiet race from the start. Didn't really have too much of a battle, and it was just a question of you know, trying to keep the car on the track in what were very difficult conditions.
Okay. As Michael returns to us. Thank you, David, for that one. You put me off there. Michael, as you said, Italy's already celebrating the first Ferrari world champion for 21 years, I think. How are you going to celebrate tonight?
Yeah, I guess we haven't planned anything, and I ask everyone not to plan anything because I simply feel it gives unluck. And we improvise, you say? Or, yeah, so we will do something, I'm sure.
I'm sure they will. Already a bit of an impromptu celebration there in Parc Ferme with his teammate Rubens Barrichello. We'll be right back. In 2 weeks' time, stay up later, set your VCRs. Most of you will see the Grand Prix of Malaysia live. Michael Schumacher's win today clinches the World Driving Championship. There are the drivers that scored in the points. Schumacher's lead, 12. That's too much for Hakkinen to overcome in Malaysia. So Schumacher is the World Driving Champion. Well, won't it be fun to go to Malaysia and points cast aside and watch the two of them just go race for it?
It really would, but of course there's still the Constructors' title to go for, I imagine, so we've got to pay with that. But what an incredible race it could be, because they'll just let it all hang out and go for it.
For Derek Bell and Peter Windsor, I'm Mike Choi. We'll see you in Malaysia. You've been watching Formula One on